Mobbing like I'm supposed to. Watch out for the people that ain't close to. Speak a little something you could toast to. I ain't tryna hear about what you won't do. Moving like I'm into. Hit the ground running like the rent do. Speak a little something that you're into. I ain't tryna hear about what you been through. Like hold up, say what's the hold up. I got the pack, who got the roll up? I'm tryna pull up. It seem like every time I show up, it gotta go up. See the drip, they see the glow up. Oh, now they know us. See, it's funny how my pockets out of shape, but I'm fit for the flex. Clear the phone call, hit my chick with a text. Parlay through the bird with my drip from the checks. Save a couple hundred by your with the rest. I prefer my reefer with Henny and Coke. Please don't be stingy, got plenty to smoke. Show up and act up and back to the crib. I do not stun, I just rap what I live. Seem like they doing the most for the clout. Did what I said so they know what I'm about. Show up and act up and back to the crib. I do not stun, I just rap what I live. Ayy, winning like I ought to. I ain't wanna do it, but I got to. Smoking what my doctor told me not to. Got these wishing they was hot too. Ballin' like I need to. Got my exes wishing for a redo. Smell the marijuana when I speed through. Hit her with a tip, that's a preview. Hold up, wait up, get your weight up. Shit, get your money, not your hate up. Boy, draw a play up. I flip my wrist, a layup. She wanna lay up. I gotta get it, I'ma stay up. I'm all the way up. I got my pay up. I ain't playing with you. I'm a coach now. Commentating through the most now. I be somewhere booted with my toes down. Made little baby tooted with her nose down. I prefer my reefer with Henny and Coke. Please don't be stingy, got plenty to smoke. Show up and act up and back to the crib. I do not stun, I just rap what I live. Seem like they doing the most for the clout. Did what I said so they know what I'm about. Show up and act up and back to the crib. I do not stun, I just rap what I live.
Yeah, for Drake. Get up here.
Ready? All right, so first question, first name, last name. Can you spell it out for us?
Michelle Griggs, Michell,
Awesome, and no E at the end of Michelle, correct? All right. Tell us about, first off, reaction to what's happened today. First thoughts.
Oh, man. Thank you, God. Thank you, Jesus. Yes. Victory. Yes. Victory. Yes. Finally, I can breathe. Yes. 7 years I've been holding my breath. I can breathe. I can breathe. I can breathe.
I saw you after your victim statement that you looked at Tim Norman. Tell me why you needed to do that, or what is that feeling when you were up there?
Because if I got to do life, he's going to do life. And I want him to know that I know that he did from the beginning. Andre told us. He told me. He said, Mom, if anything happened to me, Uncle Tim did it. And he still gave me respect by saying Uncle Tim. So that's what that was. To let him know I see you. I've been seeing you for the longest. So.
Tell us about just, were you thinking it was going to be a life sentence, or were you worried that potentially it would have been less?
I wasn't worried. I knew God was in control. And I knew that he was going to get what he's supposed to get. And he got exactly what he deserved.
I know it will never bring your son back, but do you feel in a way your son also said about, from the beginning, you were the one calling, persisting, hoping to get that justice? Does today feel like you got justice?
Yes. Justice was served. Justice was served. Yes. Our justice for our Andre, he got justice. He's not a statistic. It's a well-known fact, but he got his justice.
Anything else you want to add, or anything that you would think Andre would be thinking of this moment?
Thank you, God. Thank you, Mom. Thank you, brother. Thank you, aunties. Thank y'all for trusting and believing in me and seeing it through and not letting him get away. He did not get away. God made sure of that.
Anything else y'all want to add or include?
Family, thank you for all the supporters. Thank you for everybody who's been following the story from A1, day one. We thank y'all. We thank y'all very much. Thank you again.
Any word on the foundation?
It's still in the making. And as soon as I know, I'll be sure to let everyone know for their support. Thank you again. I appreciate it.
Any actually last words that you want to say if you've had a chance to talk to Tim? What would you say?
Why? I never get the answer. I can always think and feel, but I'll never know really why, other than what's been presented in court.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. I know there's an array of emotions, and I really appreciate the moment, the time.
Hello out there. Every time I play that, I get emotional. I was like, where's my Kleenex? Let me know that you can hear me in the chat. Okay, I got a message. I'm like, can y'all hear me? Is it telling me I'm muted? Let me know that you can hear me in the chat by either typing 1,000 subs or put your earth emojis in the chat, because that's what we do over here. And you can see mine is now floating across the chat. The globes, the earth globes, because this is reality. This channel is all about everything reality, special, unique stories, as well as true crime, etc., etc. I saw a couple comments that I wanted to address. One, let me put it on screen. Sugar Spice said, why my notification bell just went off, bogus? That's because I actually started a couple minutes earlier. Normally, I'll start the countdown exactly at the time that I schedule. So this was supposed to start at 7:30, but I actually started the countdown like at, 7:22 or something like that, because I wanted to do a couple little housekeeping things, because this is a brand new channel, first time going live. And it's like having, on my end, it's like having a brand new car. And you're like, where's that button? And how does this, the seat ain't quite right. Like you get at the first stoplight and you're like, oh, my seat still ain't right. So it's like that. We're doing some adjustments, some tweaking. And I was like, let's start this a couple minutes early. So I'm hoping by the time we really get into it, that everyone is still on board, which is the reason for the countdown. I get very few, but I get a couple comments here or there about the countdown, and people think it's unnecessary, but it's actually very necessary to make sure that as many people as possible have joined the live and we start at the same time, so you don't have so many people lagging behind, and that means the comments are out of sync and people are 10-15 minutes behind the rest of us, and it just makes for a more enjoyable experience for all of us in the VPO community. if we're all kind of starting off with the content at the same time or near the same time. So that's the reason for the countdown. Plus, it gives me time to tweak and test things and all of that. But, that's behind the scenes stuff. I know everybody don't get it. It's fine. It's fine. Well, you can, and if you don't like the countdown, it's about 5 minutes. You can come in 5 minutes late. But we're not stopping the countdown. Trikeisha says, I thought this channel didn't have the K or M restrictions, but still a good practice. So yes, this channel, although it's freer, meaning we'll talk about true crime, which automatically YouTube kind of frowns on a little bit. They like to restrict monetization with ads and all of that kind of stuff. So I know that that's going to happen quite a bit on this channel. But when you use the M and K words, it may get completely restricted from ads. So that it still applies over here, but if it slips here or there, I'm not tripping like on the Velby React side. On top of that, I don't know why it never occurred to me until yesterday, I think it was. Now those words are actually blocked. So our moderators won't have to work so hard, because if someone accidentally types the M word or the K, ill, or murder words, they will it'll be held back for review. It just won't come through. So if you don't see your comment, it's probably, you got to think back, oh, did I type either ill or murder? Like, yeah, most likely you did if you don't see it show up. So then retype it without using those words. So that should make all of our lives a little easier and help the rest of us get used to not slipping up and using that word so much. So please make sure to hit that like button on the way in. This channel, we are trying to grow. This video right now is not being monetized. That means I'm working for free. And so we want to get that rectified as soon as possible. So we need to hit 1,000 subscribers. We're about 300 and some odd, 359. I think now it's 358 subscribers away. So if you have not subscribed as of yet and you've been waiting on us to get rolling with this channel, this will be the time to subscribe. Also, definitely hit the like button, even if you're subscribed or whatever, because that helps us grow. The like button is that thumbs up below the screen. I'm going to do a graphic because I'm realizing one of our other lives that part of the reason that people aren't hitting the thumbs up, or what we coined the like button, is because they don't know what it is. So, we have a Veeple world that consists of people of all ages. So I get that. And so we want to make sure that everyone's on accord and that we can continue to grow together. Yeah, but with that, community guidelines, just make sure you don't have to really worry about the M and K word anymore. So, and then there's a couple others I added in there too. But just make sure to be respectful to everyone in the chat as well as myself. Be kind, be respectful. You can disagree without being disagreeable. This is a purpose-driven community still over here in Reality Chronicles. Our reality is purpose-driven. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. We got 125 in here. I think people still got to find us over on this new channel, but we'll get there. Okay, so we are starting today with the transcript reading of Travell Anthony Hill's sentencing hearing. So remember, he pled guilty and gave his plea agreement, and he discussed his part in the unfortunate taking of the life of Andre Montgomery. Where's Andre? Okay, Andre Montgomery. And so this is the day that he was actually sentenced. What day was that? October 20th of 2022. So y'all know I did the live courtroom recap of it, but it's different when I got verbatim every single word that was spoken and uttered. And now I'll be able to not only read this to you guys, but tell you exactly what people were doing in that moment, et cetera, et cetera. So it's going to be like you was really there now. Okay, I'm trying to make sure the chat, I like the chat where I can actually see as well, because sometimes y'all like, we can't hear you, or something I need to know in the moment. All right, so we got that there now, and I can read this here. All right, so Travell Anthony Hill's sentencing hearing was on, go back there, was on October 20th of 2022 at 10 a.m. And it starts, I'm sorry, no, his was the one that was at 1:30 p.m. See, good, we got all this in writing from the court. No mistakes on my part. Says the proceedings commenced. I don't know if y'all saying it already in the chat. Put your glasses on. Put your glasses on. Here they go. I forgot for a minute. Okay, there we go. All right. The court. So when it says the court, that's Judge Ross. So sometimes I might say the court. Sometimes I might say Judge Ross, depending on what my brain is doing. All right. So Judge Ross says, good afternoon. We are here on the record in the case of the United States versus Travell Anthony Hill. Before I go further, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to remind you it is very important that you not speak or make noises during the course of this hearing. If you have a cell phone, it needs to be turned off and in your pocket. It can't be out. So I'll just remind you of that. Please abide by that direction. So he's given us two directives. So I told y'all we can't have cell phones. They want them off and not in your hand at all. Still got people sneaking, trying to do stuff. A phone go off here or there. Maybe 2 or 3 times throughout the trial, somebody's phone went off or something. And then the marshals walk up. I saw one of the marshals during Tim's sentencing last week. It was 2 ladies that had their head down a long time. And so it caught the attention of one of the female marshals. And so she walked up and almost like a school teacher, like, what y'all doing? But I guess they weren't texting or anything because she just kind of peeked. And then I don't even think she said anything to them. She just walked back. So we can't do that. And that's one of the reasons I have to take written notes. And I'm repeating some of this for those who may not have been with us through the entire journey, so they may not know these things. And then he's also saying it is very important that we not speak or make noises during the course of the hearing. What he's talking about is the reactions like, you murderer, or, oh, ooh, or, oh my God, no, all that. None of that. Can't be doing that. No theatrics, except for Tim. I didn't do it. That wasn't allowed either, because he was like, what's wrong with you? You need a moment. Okay, so he then, Judge Ross then continues to say, by going on to saying, again, we are here for the case of the United States versus Travell Anthony Hill. It is case number. I'm just noticing the stenographer got typos. It is the case number, and she gives the case number. It says the record should reflect that Mr. Hill appears in person and with counsel Peter Cohen. Peter Cohen was Travell's attorney throughout to my knowledge, as long as I knew, definitely through the trial, that was his attorney. He says the United States appears by assistant United States Attorney Angie Danis and Gwen Carroll. He then goes on to say, again, just procedurally, Mr. Cohen, you are fine right there at the counsel table. So when he's saying the counsel table, it's like a very small conference table that can hold 6 people, 2 on one side, 2 on the other side, 1 on each end. So it's a smaller conference table. So he says, and they have that for the prosecution as well as the defense. I meant to have the courtroom diagram, but when we do Tim's, I'm putting some stuff together so we'll have more visuals. But so you guys will kind of get a refresher and see the courtroom layout. Says, I just need to speak. I'll reread. He says, again, just procedurally, Mr. Cohen, you are fine right there at the counsel table. I just need you to speak loudly and clearly. Mr. Hill, are you fine right there at the counsel table? I'm going to ask that you lower your mask and speak into the microphone so that I can hear everything that you say. And so remember, I told you guys, he came in the orange jumpsuit, the orange prison outfit. And then he had on I think it was the trial. He had a coordinating orange face mask. I can't remember the color off the top of whatever I told y'all during the recap, but he had on a medical face mask, and then he was instructed to pull it down so that the judge could hear him. The court reporter also has to take down everything that you say. So I need you to speak loudly and clearly, and counsel, you are fine right there at the counsel table. But again, I need you to speak into the microphone. And then Attorney Angie Danis, she says, yes, Your Honor. The court, Judge Ross then says, the record should reflect that Mr. Hill appeared previously on June 3rd of this year of 2022. He appeared on a multiple defendant, multiple count indictment. He was charged in counts 1 and 2 of the indictment. Count 1 charged him with the offense of conspiracy to commit M for hire resulting in death, and count 2 charged him with M for hire resulting in death. The court accepted his plea of guilty, ordered a pre-sentencing report to be prepared. We are here today for sentencing. At this time, Mr. Cohen, you are here with your client. You are representing him for sentencing. Is that correct? Attorney Cohen says, that's correct, Your Honor. Judge Ross, and Mr. Hill, do you understand that you are here today for sentencing? Is that correct, sir? Travell, yes, sir. I don't know. I couldn't think of a good voice for him, y'all. I might play around a little bit during this. Okay, so then Judge Ross says, and before we proceed with sentencing, I have some questions that I need to ask for you. That I need to ask of you. I want you to listen carefully to this. If there is anything you don't understand, stop me and let me know, or you can ask for time to talk to your attorney. But I want to make sure that you understand everything that is going on here today. All right, sir? Travell. Yeah, sir. I don't know, y'all. I'm struggling with this voice. I know, not the slave voice. I had one in my head and I can't quite remember it, and I didn't verbally say it, so now I can't. Yeah, I don't have it in my head. Okay, so Judge Ross then says, it is also necessary for you to give full, complete, and truthful answers to my questions. Your answers are under oath, which means under perjury, under penalty of perjury. So at this time, if you will raise your right hand, I'll ask the clerk to administer the oath. So it says, Travell Anthony Hill, being produced and sworn, testified as follows. Says the question, so Judge Ross' question, will you state your full name for the record? Travell Anthony Hill. And your date of birth, sir? 6/12/91. And again, Mr. Hill, do you understand that you are here today for sentencing? Is that correct? Yes, sir. His voice ain't that deep, y'all. I'm still, bear with me. I'm working on it. Ross, here today is your mind clear? Do you know exactly what you're doing? Yes, sir. Are you under the influence of any drugs or alcohol or taking any medications of any kind that would affect your ability to understand this proceeding? No, sir. No, that's probably a lie. He says, Judge Ross says, so again, here today, you understand everything that's going on. Is that correct? Travell? Yes, sir. And again, if at any time you don't understand something, stop me and let me know. You will agree to do that. Is that correct? Yes, sir. Mr. Hill, you are here today with your attorney, Mr. Cohen. I know he has represented you pretty much throughout this case. I just want to ask you generally, have you had enough time to talk to him about the case? Yes, sir. Has he answered all of your questions? To the best of... Oh, okay. This is Travell saying, to the best of his abilities, sir. Yes, sir. Okay. Has he done everything you have asked him to do in this case? I believe, yes, sir. Are you satisfied with his services? Yes, sir. Do you believe that you were fully advised to all aspects of the case, including your legal rights and the possession and the possible consequences of your plea of guilty? Yes, sir. Again, I went through the history of the case. Do you recall appearing on June 3rd? You entered those pleas of guilty to the charges as I indicated. Is that correct? Correct. Now, do y'all see why I can't keep my notes? Like my notes ain't this tight. Y'all see, because this is just a conversation happening. So this is why I tell y'all, like, oh, I ain't got all the notes. I'm just getting as much as I can. Okay, so then Judge Ross says, at this time that he says, at the time that you entered those pleas of guilty, did you do so freely and voluntarily because you were in fact guilty of those charges? Correct. Now this goes against everything that Tim just said in his email fiasco to Judge Ross, asking him to recuse himself. That video, I got the highlighted, edited down video coming in the morning, scheduled for like 10 a.m. Central. I edited it down to like, I don't know, 50 minutes or something from an hour and a half. Anyway, so you can rewatch that. But Tim was saying that Travell lied because he was coerced, but Travell has testified under oath and saying that he did this freely and voluntarily. Okay, so then Judge Ross says, and Mr. Hill, I talked to you at the time of the plea about the plea agreement. You recall that, is that correct? Yes, sir. And Mr. Coyne, do you have a copy of the plea agreement there? Because I'm going to refer to a few things in the plea agreement, so I just want to make sure that's available to Mr. Hill if he has any questions. Mr. Coyne says, I have it, Your Honor. Judge Ross, okay, all right. So again, Mr. Hill, I asked you about the plea agreement. I asked you if you had read through it, understanding everything in it. You indicated that you did. Is that correct? Correct. I think I'm gonna just do the slave voice, y'all. And then y'all can distinguish between the two. He says, and that's still your answer, that you read through this. You understood everything in it. Is that correct? Yes, sir. The plea agreement had a fact statement, a fact section. It was on pages 4, 5, and 6 of the plea agreement. I asked you about those facts. You indicated that you read through them, understood all of them, and that you were true and correct, and that you did those things. Is that right? Yes, sir. And here today, you are telling me you read through, you understood those facts, you agree that you are true and correct, and you did those things. Is that right? Yes, sir. Also, at the plea, the assistant United States attorney was asked to go through the facts briefly, to say what they anticipated the government's evidence would be, and you listened to those. Is that correct? Correct. And I asked you at the time whether or not those facts were true and correct, and you said that they were. Is that right? Yes, sir. And again, here today, you are telling me those facts were true and correct. Is that right? Yes, sir. I want to read a few sections from the plea agreement. Again, I'm on page 4 of the plea agreement. It indicates there, and I guess it's a word she missed. And I'm not going to read all of this, but there are a few sections that I want to read to you and ask you if they are true and correct. It indicates there, the second paragraph on page 6, on March 14th of 2016, and I know you had indicated you didn't remember dates, but on that date, you agreed that Andre Montgomery was taken by firearm at 3964 Natural Bridge Avenue, correct? Correct. So just a brief disclaimer on that. So what Judge Ross is saying by Travell saying he had said previously he didn't remember dates, that during the trial when he testified and they were asking him dates and he was just giving all kind of, his testimony was conflicting and all of that. Anything that said anything in regards to dates, Travell was like, I don't know. And they like, well, is it true on this date at this time you did that? I don't know. He was like, if you're gonna ask me about dates, I ain't gonna know. So that's what Judge Ross is referring to here. So Judge Ross goes on to say, it goes on on a later paragraph to indicate that on March 14th, and again, I know you don't remember dates, but on the date of the shooting, you met with Norman at Norman's request. You met, and the stenographer, I guess some words she wasn't catching. Maybe the judge was talking too fast, so it just gives me like dotted lines. So some of that reading might be choppy when I get to points like that. So he says, you met. It indicates that Norman met with you for the purpose of having a discussion. Following that discussion, it was your understanding that Norman wanted you to take Andre Montgomery. Take him out, y'all. And that's true and correct. Is that right? Travell says, correct. This is during his sentencing hearing. He's saying that's correct. So this conflicts with everything that Tim is saying. All right. Judge Ross goes on to say, it goes on a little bit further in that paragraph to indicate that Norman advised you that a female who was later identified as Terica Ellis would be contacting you to advise you where Montgomery would be located for the purpose of committing M. On top of the next page, it indicates after meeting with Norman on that date, you obtained a 380 caliber semi-automatic firearm from someone in the area. And that's true and correct. Is that right? Correct. It indicated later in the day, again on March 14th, that you received a phone call from Terica Ellis with the address where Montgomery would be located. And again, you agree that's true and correct. Is that right? Correct. And that you understood that she was going there to lure Montgomery out of the house, which would allow you to commit M, which would allow you to commit the M. Is that true and correct? Is that right? Yes, sir. Okay, at the bottom of the page, it indicated that you walked to Montgomery and discharged a firearm multiple times, striking Montgomery. That you fled the scene, disposing of both the cellular telephone and the firearm. And again, is that true and correct? Correct. At the top of the next page, page 6, indicating that 2 days later, Norman contacted you and advised you to meet with an individual, and later that you met with the individual and you accepted the payment, which was the $5,000, knowing that it was payment from Norman in exchange for you K-ing Montgomery, and that's true and correct. Oh, that's a typo. And is that true and correct? Travell says, no, sir. I didn't know. It's like, what? This is where we was like, what? You did? No, sir. I didn't know. So here's Judge Ross. You didn't know what the payment was for? No, sir. But you do agree that you received a payment of $5,000 2 days later from DJ Beats. Is that correct? I received that, but I ain't never know what it was for. I didn't think, well, he never told me before the M of Andre. Judge Ross. So you thought he was just giving you $5,000? He never told me. He never said, I'll pay you to K Montgomery. He never told me that. He never told me to do that. It indicates there that he handed you a bag containing approximately $5,000. And he said the words to the effect of, keep your mouth quiet. And that was in quotes. I remember that quote because that was in the indictment or something. Or his plea agreement. It must have been his plea agreement because I remember this part. I didn't know that was DJ Beats that said that. And even during the trial, I guess maybe I skipped over that. I was taking notes like a madman. So I didn't know DJ Beats said that. I thought that that white boy Chris told Travell that at some point. Okay. So Judge Ross then says, no, I'm sorry. That wasn't, this ain't Judge Ross. He says, no, No, he didn't give me no bag. He gave me the money in my hand. So you're telling me that those facts are incorrect? You see them in the plea agreement. Is that correct? Like, this, I'm reading your words. You know, I'm not just saying this off the top of my head. I'm reading your words. This is the part, though, y'all, that it was around this part where Travell's family, remember I was telling y'all they was like a row or two in front of me. It was like, what, 4 or 5 of them I told y'all? This is when the lady was like shaking her head like Judge Ross was making this stuff up. Like Travell ain't never said none of this. I was like, what? He's literally reading what Travell confessed to. But okay, however y'all roll. It is what it is. Okay, so Judge Ross says, so you're telling me that those facts are incorrect? You see them in the plea agreement. Is that correct? Yeah, I see them. And you told me at the time of your plea that they were true and correct. This ain't our first time at the rodeo. I told you at the plea agreement when I y'all. I gotta take a commercial break, y'all. I'll be right back. Sorry, this real life. I'm a YouTuber. We got real life. What I'm gonna play for y'all. I'm gonna play this for y'all. I'll be right back. Hello. That was my mama. She needed a lift, an Uber. Hold on, I'm texting her. You gotta love real life. All right. We should be good for it. We should be good. All right, now let me find my place. Okay, let me find my place. Hold on, let me give y'all comments back where they belong. Oh, let me bring up Travell again. Hold on, y'all. Bear with me. There we go. Okay, we good. Okay, now over here. Where did I leave off? Let's see. Okay, so I'll start here. So Judge Ross is saying, and you told me at that time of the plea agreement, and you told me at the time of the plea agreement, that those were true and correct. I told you at the plea agreement when DJ did give me $5,000, but it was never no discussion. I just was getting paid to K. Andre. Let me reread this because I did not mess up. I'm trying to comprehend what I just read. It made no sense. This was how Travell's testimony went as well, y'all. It was so so crazy. Yeah, that part too, the jail phone call. Actually, as I was pulling these transcripts out of my files, my digital files, I ran into that call with Travell's him and his brother, the transcript of it. I'm gonna do a video on that. I don't think we necessarily need to do a live on it, but I'm gonna do a video on that. Anyway, so I'm gonna reread what Travell said. He says, and I think this voice, this slave voice is appropriate for this kind of shenanigans. Like, we're just gonna stick with that. So it says, he says, I told you at the plea agreement when I and there's some stuttering there. That's why I did that. Yeah, DJ did give me $5,000, but it was never no discussion. I was just getting paid to K. Andre. Okay. Judge Ross. Okay. Again, at the time, and he did say it kind of like that. I remember that part. Okay. So again, at the time of the plea, I asked you about all these facts. You told me that they were true and correct, and that you did those things. Is that right? Yes, I K'd him. Yes, I did meet with Tim that day. Yes, that was correct. For some reason, Travell is trying to take himself out of the category of what would be considered a snitch. So he's trying to take out the fact that he did also snitch on, by way of pleading guilty, he snitched on Tim by telling on himself. He also told on Tim. So he's now trying to be like, well, I'm gonna admit to what I did, but I ain't gonna implicate Tim. It's impossible because you wouldn't have done what you did without Tim. So it's like all of a sudden he took this turn where he's now trying to pull out. So he was still trying that ish here at the sentencing hearing, but it was, well, we get to it. I keep forgetting this is detail. So let's move on. I ain't gonna get too much commentary. So he says, yes, I K'd him. Yes, I did meet with Tim that day. Yes, that was correct. And you understand, and you understood that he wanted Andre Montgomery Cade. It was an understanding, yes, but it was never no. Hold on, no, it was never no understanding about him paying me. Oh, you was gonna do it for free? What? I think I did that in court. Like, what? Now you're just gonna do it for free, dude. That just makes some sense. You're making it make less sense than the whole thing, because the whole thing didn't make no sense. But all this, why we even here? Why this happened? Anyway, Judge Ross. But again, you do agree that 2 days later, because he like, whatever with you, let's get back to the facts. But again, you do agree that 2 days later, he called and you said, meet with him. He called and you said, meet with him, meet with this other person. I think there's a typo. But you do agree. But again, do you agree that 2 days later he called and you said meet with this other person who was DJ? Right. And you were given $5,000. Yes, that's correct. Okay, again, do you like okay. Again, do you agree that you were in fact guilty of each of these charges? Is that correct? Yes, sir. Okay. An- any any other record with regard to this portion of the proceedings, Mr. Cohen? That's again on Travell's attorney. Travell's attorney. No, Your Honor. Any other record on behalf of the government with regard to this portion of the proceeding? Attorney Angie Danis. No, Your Honor. This is Judge Ross. Mr. Hill, I talked to you at the time of the plea a little bit about what would happen here today at sentencing. I want to go over that with you again. The first thing that the court is required to do is determine under the sentencing guidelines what the guideline range of punishment is in your case. The way that I do that is by determining a total offense level and a criminal history score and category. That's based on the person's prior record of criminal convictions. From that, I get a guideline range of punishment. The guideline range is advisory, which means it gives guidance to the court, but the court is not required to follow it. After I do that, I'll consider certain factors under the section of statute. And then he gives the statute. There are a series of factors that the court is required to consider. That includes the nature of circumstances of the offenses that you pled guilty to, the history and characteristics of you as a defendant. There are a number of other factors that the court will consider. Do you understand all of this, sir? Yes, sir. You know, to assist the court, I ordered that the pre-sentencing report be prepared. And counsel, for the record, there was a disclosure copy of the report, then a final report that was prepared. Mr. Cohen, you received those reports, provided access to the reports to Mr. Hill, went over them with him, answered any questions he may have had. Is that correct, Mr. Cohen? Yes, I did, Your Honor. Judge Ross. And I noted for the record that there have been no objections filed in the pre-sentence report. I just want to ask you here today on behalf of Mr. Hill, are there any objections to any of the factual statements that the guidelines calculation or any of those recommended conditions of supervision? Mr. Cohen? No, Your Honor. So again, this is drastically different from Tim's sentencing hearing where we had what I told you 11 objections that Tim's team filed. 11. So none here. Judge Ross goes on to say, Mr. Hill, I want to ask you, sir, again, you had an opportunity to see the pre-sentence reports, particularly the final report. Read over it, understand what it means and what it says. Is that correct? Yes, sir. Did you also have an opportunity to go through it with Mr. Cohen? And did he answer any questions that you may have had? Yes, sir. You have heard him indicate that there are no objections. I just want to ask you, sir, do you have any objections to any of the factual statements in the guideline calculations? Any of those recommended conditions of supervision? Any objections at all? No, sir. Ms. Danis, Ms. Carroll, does the government have any objections to anything in the final pre-sentencing report? No, Your Honor. Based on the answers and evidence, the court will adopt the final pre-sentencing report as its findings of fact and legal conclusion in this case. Specifically, its findings and facts and legal conclusions with regard to the advisory guidelines. Based on the evidence and pre-sentencing report, the court finds the total offense level in this case is an offense level of 40. Tim had what, 43, I think I told y'all? So Travell's was lower. Mr. Hill has a criminal history score of 15. Oh, no. Oh, I'm sorry. This is part of the score. That's what. Wait, or did that say total? It said total. Okay. I don't know, y'all. Let me finish. Says history score 15. Puts him in a criminal history category of 6. The guideline provision is for a life sentence. Again, Mr. Coyne, do you agree that those are the guidelines calculations? Is that correct? Mr. Coyne? Yes, Your Honor. Judge Ross? And Mr. Hill, do you understand that as well? Understand those as well? Yes, sir. And the government agrees as well. Is that correct? Ms. Angie Danis? That's correct, Your Honor. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Judge Ross. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the procedure of our court. We have a local rule that requires the court to hold a closed conference in every plea and every sentencing hearing. This portion of the procedure is not public. So I'm going to ask all of you, if you would, to leave the courtroom for a few minutes, and then I'll bring you back in for the rest of the proceedings. So I'm going to ask that you step out just for a few minutes. Thank you. Thanks for your understanding. And then it says, pursuant to local rule, blah, 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 a bench conference was held on and recorded, held on the record and placed under seal. So meaning they recorded this. They did transcripts for that as well, but that's something we'll never see. Says the following proceedings continued in open court. So I'm going to take a quick commercial break because I need to take a swig of water. Even though I played all those breaks for y'all, I didn't take a swig of water. My throat was burning a little bit. Just reminding you guys that we have not forgot about other predators who may not have taken lives, but have definitely taken a lot from the lives of people who have been loyal to them, followers, etc., and continues to be a predator out here in these internet streets. So we have not given up on this series, so stay tuned for much more.
It doesn't matter what you want. I will succeed, whether you like it or not. I am unstoppable. When will you learn that? When will you learn that?
Again, Mr. Williams, I invite you to conversate with me directly. I don't do all this internet stuff. The problem is you're going after my family, you post my children, and then you mention my name. So you and I, we need to have a conversation. And yes, this is a forever problem.
Uh-oh, that was right on time. I was just sitting back down. I had to get y'all a second because I'm like, ooh, I gotta do a restroom break too. All right. Okay. So we took a break. So remember, with these hearings, with these sentencing hearings, we always he would excuse us for the bench conference. out of the view of public. And so after we come back, this is when we get into the victim impact statements from the family of Andre Montgomery, where they finally get to have their voices heard for what was tragically done to Andre, and by way of through them as well. So let's see. All right, Judge Ross. And I should have put this picture up. I never put this picture up for y'all. Judge Ross is now speaking. And he says, okay, we're back on the public record. Ms. Danis, Ms. Carroll, I understand that you have some family members of the victim who want to make victim impact statements. I know you have asked them to be brief. So if you want to call someone up, I'm going to have them come up to the podium, give their names, spell their name, and then give them an opportunity to speak. Then Angie Danis says, Your Honor, I'm not positive what order they would like to go in. The first will be Darren Griggs. So I think like she kind of looked their way and they pointed and said who was going to be first. So then Judge Ross says, okay. And Mr. Griggs, if you will step up here to the podium, and Mr. Griggs, I need you to just address the court. So he's telling him, don't address Travell. Don't be over there pointing fingers at him. Address me, basically. Keep facing forward. I need you to just address the court. So you're going to address your remarks to me. If you don't mind spelling your name, give your full name and the spelling of your name. And so he says, so this is Darren now talking. He says, Darren Griggs, and then he spells it. I ain't got to do all that. Judge Ross says, okay, Mr. Griggs, I want to give you an opportunity to tell me anything you want to tell me. Darren then says, all right. The first one is from my uncle because he couldn't be here today. And I remember when Darren started reading this, I thought it was Darren reading his because I didn't catch this part of what he said. I just heard him start talking and I thought it was him. And things he was saying, I was like, he's talking like he's not the brother. He the brother. But anyway, he says, good afternoon, Judge. Oh, and then Judge Ross interrupts and he says, and before you read, I just want to ask you to read slowly. Sometimes when people are reading, they read very fast. So the court reporter has to take down everything that is said. Darren says, yes, sir. And then Judge Ross says, thank you. Darren starts again. He says, good afternoon, Judge. I had my nephew, Dre, taken away from the family. I have had my nephew, Dre, taken away from the family, have ripped a piece of our family fabric away, which meant so much to us. The laughter he gave us has been taken away. Watching him fulfill his dreams has been taken away. The wife and kids he may have had to add to our family has been taken away. There are so many more takeaways that I can list, but the most important one was his spirit, which was given to him by God. His spirit can't be taken away from us. Can't no man take what God has given. Dre was special and will always be special through his death as he has touched millions of people's lives that didn't know him, but they feel his spirit, which will live forever. I love you, Dre. And then Darren says, this is from me. Good afternoon, Judge. The words, quote, pay me whatever, I will never forget. It has been 6 years since my brother Andre was emmed. I served in the United States Navy for 20 years to defend this country from both foreign and domestic. And the fact that I couldn't protect my little brother will haunt me for the rest of my life. Oh, I remember when he said that, y'all. I felt that one. He says, I think about it often. Ways I could have been there. Ways I could have been there with him. Trips I could have taken. Somehow meet up at the same spot at the house to take those bullets instead of him. Because a big brother, even though I have a family of my own, I would have done that for him. There was nothing I could do. Going through the trial, knowing he had no chance to survive, caves me and keeps me up at night wondering why. As a baby, I used to change his diaper, feed him, place his bottle on the stove in the water to make sure it was warm enough for him to drink. I placed the right amount of rice cereal in his bottle to make sure that he was full. He had the biggest smile with the biggest dimpled chin. He was very fast and quick as a baby, and even as a young man. Even though I'm not his father, a piece of me feels that way. Every time I talked to him on the phone, it was, yes, sir, no, sir. He didn't have to. That's just the way he was raised. Taking Andre's life literally cut off an entire bloodline of the Montgomery family. He wasn't able to have a child to carry his name. I didn't see him often as he was doing his thing, being young, having fun, while I have a family to take care of. I was waiting until he was older to have those grown man conversations. How to raise your kids, how to be a good father, how to be a good man, a real mentor. I never got that chance. Oh, I remember when he said that too, y'all. That one hit me too. He goes on to say, October 14th, he would have been, this past October 14th, he would have been 28 years old. I often wonder how he would have turned. What would he be doing right now? And how well would he have handled himself now that he's grown? And not at the stage of trying to find himself that we all go through. His death has impacted our entire family. We are not whole and never will be again. A huge piece is missing. My mom and Andre have the same birthday. It is a lot different since he has been gone. We want to celebrate, but at the same time, we mourn that Andre isn't here to celebrate with us. The day we buried him on March 26th is the day before my birthday. So to celebrate another life, another year of life, knowing my brother would never get an opportunity will always be thought on my birthday. And it has never been the same and never will be. The defendant's birthday is the exact date as my sister's birthday. This is when they started talking to correlations between all these numbers, significant family moments and dates, and how they align with this case that makes it like, well, they'll never forget. Says the defendant's birthday is the same exact date as my sister's birthday. So although we celebrate her, I can't help but to think about him in some capacity, which I hate knowing. Andre had so much life to live and more to give than anybody could ever imagine. It breaks my heart to know that his life was cut short by someone who just wanted whatever as a payment. So, Judge, I just want you to give him whatever, but I want him to get the maximum possible. Even today, as he sits in the court, he didn't accept 100% full responsibility. He is backtracking on some of the things that he pled guilty to that he was charged for. I would have respected him a little bit more had he not took those back. It won't bring back my brother, but at least I know he will never see the light of day outside of prison ever again. Thank you. Judge Ross then says, thank you, Mr. Griggs. And if you can step up here to the podium, and if you will give me your name and spell it for us. Oh, I guess they didn't get it that first time. The other thing about this particular victim impact statement procedure that's different than the others is that this was the one where everyone spoke, like all of the siblings, like the primary people we see in this photo as well. They were all Yeah, this one was different. This one was different. So if we don't get no other ones, this one y'all really get to see where the family's coming from with this. So next was Kaylin Griggs, Andre's sister. She says, my name is Kaylin. She spells it for them. She says, my brother has been dead for 6 years. My life will never be the same. I'm sure you don't care. Oh, because she, I think because Judge Ross hadn't repeated himself about address me only. Kayla was like, she was constantly turning over towards Travell. This is interesting, y'all. She says, my brother has been dead for 6 years. My life will never be the same. I'm sure you don't care because you have nothing to live for. The only thing that seems important was to satisfy your representation or your street name, Loco. How lame. This is her, not me. She said, how lame. And then this is where it started like, oh, she about to start reading them. So she says, your so-called role model only did so much for you. He helped you live your life behind bars. That's what you wanted, huh? You even pled for life. How can you sleep? How did you feel after you pulled the trigger? Not the first time, the second time, but the 5th time. You wanted to make sure he was gone, huh? Was that it? Was it every bullet? Was every bullet $1,000? Was the 5,000 worth it? So this is, I'll keep reading. Then I do my commentary. She says, you ruined 2 lives, my brother's and yours. My brother was my protector. Andre was loving. He was caring. My brother was funny. He was loving. He loved to dance. He loved to sing. I will never be the same. I have major trust issues because of you. All I can do is dream about my brother. All I have is memories. We can't hang out no more. We can't laugh, hug. Our bond is destroyed because of your decision. I no longer have a physical bond with my brother. I hope you get life. You're easily influenced to do anything bad. It was an easy job for you to take my brother's life. I'm sure you would do it again. I'm sure you would do it again. You are a coward. You are a weak boy. You are a fairy. When she did that, oh my God, when she did that. When she said, you are a fairy. Now she's looking at him and pointing and everything. And he was like, what? And I was like, what? I was like, she knows something? She later said that she just called him a fairy. She didn't have no, it was nothing on. I was like, is word on the street something different about him? She just said, she's being passionate and she just said whatever. She says, my family will always have a hard time. And my voice inflection has changed because that's how it was aggressive like that. Like her words, if words were weapons, he would not be here with us today. That's all I got to say. She says, my family will always have a hard time during the holidays, especially for my mother. Her and Dre's birthday, they shared the same date, October 14th. And then 5 months later, his death date of March 14th. Our family will never have joy again. I have so much anger and hate towards you. I want you to suffer. You are trash to society, super trash. And you got swept up. Ooh, when I was taking my notes, I missed this part, y'all. This was like new words to me, new information. She says, I hope you get the maximum life. I hope you get the maximum life in prison. You should never see the light of day again. Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor. Ooh. Ooh, super trash, right? Oh yeah. I was gonna say something about that. And oh yeah, because remember, so when she talked about the 5 bullets, was it $1,000 per bullet? I thought that was poignant. I thought that was prolific. That was great because during the trial, there was conversation during his testimony about him saying that he wasn't intending to take Dre's life. He just wanted to hurt Dre a little bit basically threaten him and get back at him for Tim kind of thing. But he wasn't trying to take him out. So then I forgot who was crossing out. I can't remember if it was Angie Danis or Gwendolyn Carroll from the government. But they was like, you weren't trying to take him out, but didn't you shoot at him 5 times? Like, what? So it's like, that's not making sense. You making no sense. Because he said that was also why now when he was being examined or whatever, not even cross-examined, whatever they call it, testifying on behalf of Tim's attorney was saying, why did you get the small gun? And that was Travell's thing. I got the small gun because I wasn't trying to take him out. I was just trying to hurt him a little bit, but not take him out. And then that's when the cross-examined of the government was like, with that small gun, you fired 5 times, right? Like, right? Yeah. 2 landed. Okay, so then Judge Ross, she says, okay, again, if you will step here to the podium and give your name and spell it, if you don't mind. So this was Asia Griggs, and she spells her name. This is Andre's sister. She's so the one. I'm sorry for those of you who may not know. Kayla, who just spoke, she's in the yellow t-shirt. She's the one on our right. The second one in from our right in the yellow, and then his sister Asia is the one in the green right next to Kayla. So she's 3 in from our right. So she's speaking now. Judge Ross says, go ahead. Asia then says, Your Honor, Andre was my best friend and my twin. Well, that's what we called each other. We spent all of our time together. If he was anywhere, he was with me. Even his hair color, everything right here, it says indicated, I don't know what. So his impact, he K'd my mom and my brother. You know, she is here physically, but you know, the love, the nourishing, the gentleness, her cry. Oh my gosh, a mother's cry. That can just kind of rip you and then shred you. And then it just replayed. There is no celebration. There is no love. There is no connection. There is an incapability to feel, to care. You know, he was, thank you. The court. And again, if you would please get, so this is telling me the court stenographer didn't, for whatever reason, didn't catch everything that Asia was saying, because it's kind of like she called every few words or something, because, yeah, she called every few words or something. Because I feel like it was more than this. Okay. This is what we got to work with, y'all. Okay, so then Judge Ross says, again, if you will give your name and spell it. So at this point, like every time a person finishes, they then just go back to their seat. And then the other person who knows they're next, they just automatically get up. And then that's when Judge Ross addresses them. So now Michelle Griggs is now up at the podium. She's saying, my name is Michelle Griggs. She spells it out. She says, good afternoon, Judge. This makes 7 years that Andre, and then the court stenographer put here crying. So this is when Michelle Griggs, got emotional. She kind of paused. She says, he was, and she stutters a little bit. She says, I have lost my child to greed, selfishness, and ambition. Andre was just that, my child. He was trying to find his way in life. My son never had a chance to grow up. She starts crying again. Says, every day I went in the last 7 years of knowing if he would settle down and get married. I'm reading it as it is. It's a little bit of a typo here, y'all. Says, had kids to make me a grandmother, or to fulfill his dreams and make it in the music industry. We will never know, because his life was ended by the executor. She says, this cowardly act has erased my son's legacy. No, we keeping that legacy. We keeping his legacy alive. Says, Andre was the last Montgomery on his father's side. Andre has no children to carry his name. All we have of Dre is his memories. Andre had an infectious smile. He lived life to the fullest and always kept us laughing. We will have no more of that because he's gone. On March 14th, 2016, when I received that phone call that Dre was emmed, the phone call no parent should ever receive, I physically felt my heart rip. The pain I will never forget because I feel it every day. Wow. Says, I love and miss my son every day. And Andre and I shared the same birthday, October 14th. This year, as well as the other 6 years, it is hard for me to celebrate, but by God's grace and my family's importance, we are able to celebrate our life. I know I'm supposed to forgive, just not today. Oh, I remember when she said that. Ooh, I felt that one, y'all. She says, Your Honor, Mr. Travell pled to mandatory life. I ask that you honor his request. As Andre's mother, I will never see, hear, touch, or kiss my son for the rest of my life. Thank you. Judge Ross says, is there any other victim impact testimonies or evidence on the behalf of the government? And Jadena says, no, Your Honor, we have nothing further to offer. Judge Ross, okay, all right. With that, I want to give you, Mr. Cohen, an opportunity to tell me anything you want to tell me about, and it says 3553A factors. I don't know, that's technical stuff. Or sentencing considerations for the court. He says, I want to note a couple of things. Again, I noted that you had not intended to present any evidence here today. Is that correct? Mr. Cohen says, that is correct, Your Honor. Judge Ross says, and as I understand it, the government is making recommendations of a sentence of 30 years in the Bureau of Prisons to run concurrently on 2 counts. Is that correct? And Jadena says, that's correct, Your Honor. Judge Ross says, and that's based on the government's evaluation of all circumstances in the case. The evidence, is that correct? And Jadena says, that's correct. Judge Ross says, okay, all right. That being said, that being the case, Mr. Cohen, I want to give you an opportunity to tell me anything you want to tell me. So go ahead. Let me take a swig of water on this because this is when it get interesting again, y'all. This is when it get interesting when Travell's attorney gets up there and talks his talk. And then I'm gonna do the comments. I don't know, Precious G, if you have some comments, you can start a few more, maybe like 3 times what's there, and then I'll go through the comments once we get through. We're on page 23 of 32. No, of 34. It's 35 pages, but I don't think I need to read that last one. So yeah, we're on 23 of 30. So they're going fairly quick because it's double space and stuff. So okay, so Mr. Cohen. So this is Travell's attorney. He says, thank you, Your Honor. Judge, on the behalf of Mr. Hill, obviously, this is a terrible thing that he did. And listening to the family certainly brings that to reality. And I hope that sunk in with him. And taking another person's life is one of the most serious things somebody can do. And unfortunately, Mr. Hill has admitted in court and several times actually that he did do this. Even though he did do this, Your Honor, he did on his arrest come forward to try to at least make amends for what he did by telling the government what happened. Well, and then recanted most pieces left and right. He says the whole, and this is several years after it all happened. And he laid out to them what happened. He agreed, as is the matter of public record, to come in, cooperate against Tim Norman, but not quite. I'm sorry, let me put this up. I'm taking a break from my voice too. This is why I can't go live like constantly. Okay, so he says, and he says the whole, and this is several years after this all happened. He laid out to them what happened. He agreed, as is the matter of public record, to come in, cooperate against Tim Norman. He was the first in the indictment to enter a plea of guilty. And once he entered his plea of guilty, others followed. Tim did not. Tim still ain't following. Tim like, I didn't do it. Y'all did it. Says, but nonetheless, Travell came in and testified against him. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. He says, and it is very rare in a M case that you have the actual or conspiracy to commit the M for hire case where you have the actual shooter come in and lay it out for the jury. Okay, you reaching, because it didn't go that smooth. And I think that's powerful evidence. And he did do that. And I think he's going to be, since it is well known, his plea agreement was on the internet. They love to point out us YouTubers. When they say that, that means what we're doing right here. He says he is going to be a target from here on out. He is going to be in danger for his cooperation. So he's talking about both in prison and outside of. He says, I point out, Your Honor, as a note in the pre-sentencing report that he has 4 minor children. I know that he cares about his kids, and I think that was part of the reason he did come forward to try to lessen his sentence. Right. It was about him, not Dre and not the Griggs. Thank you. Now you're clearing it up. Now we get into facts. He says he had 2 brothers that were killed by gun violence himself, and that happened around the same time. Oh, I can't wait for y'all to hear what Judge Ross said about that. Shortly before this all happened. So shortly before he took Andre's life, he actually lost a brother, like within some months. He says, and he was raised by, here we go. And he was raised by a single mother and grandmother. And he was without a father for his entire childhood. His criminal history, even though there is 15 points, I didn't notice anything of any violence. There were some drug cases, some miscellaneous traffic matters. He is going to, regardless of what the court decides in this matter, he's going to be doing a lengthy sentence. And he is going to be looking over his shoulders every step of the way. I believe, Your Honor, given his cooperation in this case, even though it was a homicide and it was a horrible, horrible tragedy, that a sentence of 240 months would be appropriate. Only 240 months. Thank you. Judge Ross then says, okay, Mr. Hill, I'm going to come back to you and give you an opportunity to tell me anything you want to tell me, but let me go to the government. Miss Danis, Miss Carroll, I want to give you an opportunity to tell me anything you want to tell me. I know you have filed a motion in this case. The court intends to and will now grant the government's motion. Again, it is a motion for a downward departure or variance. And as I understood it, again, you have recommended or are recommending 360 months to run concurrent. I want to give you a chance to tell me anything you want to tell me about the 3553A factors. So then Attorney Angie Danis, she speaks. Your Honor, we do not have additional 3553A factors. I just want to point out that the government's recommendation of 360 months, a 30-year sentence, does take into account the defendant's cooperation and all of those factors laid out in the memorandum, and we believe accurately reflects both the severity of the crime in balance with the level of Mr. Hill's cooperation. Says, Judge Ross says, okay, Mr. Coyne, anything else you want to tell me? Attorney Coyne says, no, Your Honor, thank you. Judge Ross, okay, Mr. Hill, at this time, this is an opportunity to tell me anything you want to tell me about the sentence to be imposed. So go ahead. Before I go too far, so although Travell technically, the sentencing guidelines basically totaled where he was supposed to get life. However, the government, before his cooperation, asked that it be reduced. And so they made a motion for that because that was part of his plea agreement, I guess, or whatever. So the judge was saying he's going to grant that. The Griggs family was not in agreement with that. They wanted him to get life as well. I feel like, that part was left out of this because in this, well, I'll make sure. Maybe we just ain't got to it yet. But I remember when the government, Angie Danis or Gwen, I think it was Gwen Carroll, made the statement that she was aware that the Griggs family, that they were a great family to work with, and all of these things about them building their relationship over time, and they are always working to help the families get, victory, all this other stuff. And they said, but this was the one area where they unfortunately weren't able to have a meeting of the minds. But moving forward with Tim, they were definitely gonna do it. Maybe that was for Terica. Maybe that's what maybe I'm getting confused, y'all. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's me. Okay, moving on. Never mind. Forget what I just said. Okay. Anything else? Okay. So now Travell is speaking. So Judge Ross is giving Travell the floor. Travell says, I just want to apologize to the family of the victim, Andre Montgomery. I apologize. I truly do. I understand that you all want me to get life. I understand that. I lost brothers too. I lost friends and family as well. I lost 2 brothers the same exact year, months later. I go through the same thing every day. I pled guilty to it. No, I ain't do it for the money at all. This don't help. I ain't do it. It was never about the money. My mother made sure we had money our whole life. It was never about the money. When I did it to save my life. I even thought, now that my life is still, I'm dead inside anyway by being locked up. So when I came up here and I pled guilty to this M, it was saving my life. It was saving myself too as well. I was a dead man that same night. If I didn't do it, I was going to die. And Dre was going to die the same anyway. And I just saved myself. I pled guilty. I'm sorry I did it. I could have taken my chances of beefing with the person that told me to do it. He's talking about white boy Chris. But still, that's something they wanted done, not me. I understand you are all mad. You are going to be always mad at me. Trust me, it's more than mad. I'm mad at myself for doing it. I'm mad at myself for being around the people. That was never my intentions to hurt nobody. I just wanted to let them know, Judge Ross. Judge Ross says, I understand that. So I'm here. I pled guilty. I manned up. I pled guilty to the crime because I did it. But I was saving my life. It was never no intentions for me to hurt anyone. I never did in life until that day. Now I'm hurting, not just his family, but my family as well. I have a son that is 1 year old that I have never seen in person, only on video. And I lived through the telephone. I lived through my family's smiles and cries. I remember that part because I was like, what? That is the only thing that moves me. My body went empty. So when my mother smiled, I smile. This is the part. When my kids smile, I smile. When my mama smile, no, when my woman smile, I smile. When my family smile, y'all know I ain't making this up. I'm literally reading court transcripts. So y'all probably thought I was lying with my notes. See, I'm honest over here. I'll tell y'all. When my family smile, I smile. This could be a song. When they cry, I cry. I have been dead inside since the day of the M. I apologize. I understand you all want me to have life. I don't blame you at all. Judge Ross, just talk to me. Just talk to me. He's like, stop it. Travell, I'm sorry, Judge. I'm sorry, Judge Ross, but I just letting them know I'm sorry. I understand they are not wrong for what they want. Just look in your heart and give me the best time you think. Now he's talking to Judge Ross. You think I should have. And I do live every day regretting every second that I met this man to have this done to another man. I am here to get my sentence and move forward. I apologize to everybody in the court. Yeah, you want to move forward. They can't. He's talking about white boy Chris. He ain't talking about Tim. To him, Tim is still the angel, the savior. Judge Ross then says, okay, let me start first, because he kind of interrupted him. He says, okay, let me just start first of all. I just want to say to this family, to the family members, it is not easy to come into court and testify as you did. And I want to commend you for the strength that you've shown in coming here today. It is not an easy thing to do. And again, I recognize how difficult it is, and I just commend you for your strength in doing that. I want to say a few things to you, Mr. Hill. This is when he goes in, y'all. I just want to say a few things to you, Mr. Hill. First of all, you talk about your two brothers were killed. I'm not supposed to say the word. Was Cade around the same time before you Cade Andre. And it is troubling to me because that says to me that you knew the pain that was caused when your brothers were Cade. And yet you still went and Cade Andre. And at this point, you have to listen to me. Oh, because I think Travell, again, remember I told y'all, he interrupted Travell because Travell wasn't done. And so Judge Ross interrupted him with what I just read. And so now Travell's like, yes, sir. And then Judge Ross continues. He says, that's just troubling. I just don't know how you do that. You understood the pain those things caused, and yet you did exactly that to Andre. It is interesting to me when you say it wasn't about the money, but you agreed 2 days after the M that Tim called you and told you to meet with DJ Beats, who gave you $5,000. I know you have said today that you didn't know what the money was for, but it makes sense. No, but it makes, honestly, it makes no logical sense. I mean, Tim called you and said, meet with DJ Beats. It is 2 days after the M and you accept $5,000. In any event, because he like, anyway, in any event, I do think I will say this. I think the money wasn't the most important thing to you. It was, I guess, because of your allegiance to Tim and the others involved in this, that you felt like you needed or wanted to do this. And that's unfortunate. I think from what I see in the pre-sentencing report, and from what I've seen, that you are someone who can be influenced by others. And I don't doubt that you were influenced by others. But the fact of the matter is, knowing that Tim wanted you to Kate Andre, you that same day after meeting with Tim went and bought a gun for the sole purpose of executing Andre. You then got a call from Terica, who told you the location to go to. You hid between two houses. When Andre was lured out of the house, you came out of the shadows between the houses and shot him multiple times. Okay, so that I'm literally just putting that piece together. So that had to be, if y'all remember the timeline video we just put out, as Andre is walking back down the sidewalk from getting out of Terica's car, that means that he wasn't walking and looking at Travell. Travell wasn't still standing by that railing. By that time, Travell went between the two houses in what we call in Chicago the gangway and stood there and wait. And as Andre got close and started getting ready to walk up the steps, that's when Travell popped out between the houses and then started firing. That's new, like that's a new connection I'm just making here in this moment. Okay, so because I tell y'all, even though I'm there and I'm taking notes, it's so much talking and stuff happening, like I miss things too. Says Judge Ross goes on to say, you did all of that in an incredibly cold and callous manner. And all of that is very, very troubling to the court, to our system of justice, to the family. It is unconscionable. It is unconscionable that you would do those things in, again, such a cold and calculated manner to take a life. The fact that his life meant so little to you is hard to understand. Right, because it wasn't like Andre was a total stranger to him either. He knew of Andre. He had been around Andre growing up on and off. He says, I have considered all of the 3553A factors that are set out in the pre-sentencing report. They point out things that you didn't have an easy childhood. You did lose 2 brothers to gun violence. I do think your criminal history in some respects is overstated because he got like a bunch of petty drug, offenses, got, stuff on him. He says, I mean, you have a number. Oh, he goes on to say, you have a number of drug convictions and some misdemeanor convictions for which you got points. Your criminal history in some respects is overstated. I have taken all of those things into consideration. You are getting a substantial benefit in that the court isn't going to impose a life sentence that might otherwise have been imposed. But when I give consideration to all of the circumstances, the facts and circumstances of this case, given considerations to the 3553A factors, and again, I understand the government's position. I understand the defense counsel's position. I have considered all of the 3553A factors. At this end, the sentence that I believe is sufficient, but not greater than necessary, is a sentence of 32 years in the Bureau of Prisons. And that it is 384 months in the Bureau of Prisons on each count to run concurrent with each other. For those of you who aren't familiar, that means together. So he got 2 32-year counts, which would equal 64 years, but that's if it was consecutive. So it ain't like he's serving 32 years and then finish that and then start another 32 years. It's all together. He's serving 2 days at a time, basically. Judge Ross goes on to say, so that's the sentence that the court intends to impose. Mr. Coyne, I know that that's not the sentence you are asking for, but do you know of any legal objections to the court imposing the sentence I have indicated? Mr. Coyne says, no legal objection, Your Honor. Judge Ross says, again, I know that that's not the government's recommendation, but do you know of any legal objections to the court imposing the sentence I have indicated? And Jadena says, no, Your Honor. So again, remember, Travell's attorney wanted him to get way less time. I forgot, it was 20 years maybe. Y'all do the math, but I think it was 20 years. And then Angie Danis, the government wanted him to get 30. They were recommending stepping it down from a life sentence to 30 years. He went up 2 years, so it's 32 years. So Judge Ross then goes on to say, he says, then no legal objection having been shown why judgment and sentence should not be pronounced, it is then the order, sentence, judgment of the court pursuant to, and then he gives this act, and he says, it is the judgment of the court. The defendant, Travell Anthony Hill, is hereby committed to the custody of the Bureau of Prisons for an aggregate term of 32 years. It is 384 months. The term consists of a term of 32 years, 384 months on each counts 1 and 2, with those terms to be served concurrently while in the custody of the Bureau of Prisons. the court will recommend that you be evaluated for participation in the residential drug abuse program. He says, I think you have a very serious drug problem. Remember, I told y'all that. So Judge Ross is saying, I think you have a very serious drug problem. He ain't talking about it in the past. So he like, you getting high in jail. I guess he knows from the pre-sentencing report, probably. He says, you really admitted that. Oh, he says, you really admitted that. I missed this part when I was in court. He says, you really admitted that. And the drug abuse program is a great program. I don't know whether or not you will qualify for it, but I'll include it as a part of the recommendation. Oh, so he might just be a crackhead in jail then. He says, I'll also include a recommendation that you participate in any available occupational or educational programs that the Bureau of Prisons may have. Upon release from imprisonment, the court will order that you be placed on supervised release for a term of 5 years on each of the counts 1 and 2, with those terms to run concurrent. So he's going to have 5-year probation. It says within 72 hours of your release from the custody of the bureaus of prison, I'll order that you report in person to the probation office in the district to which you are released. And to my knowledge, from what people are saying, he's in California. I don't know which jail there, or prison rather there, but he's in California. While on supervision, the court will order that you comply with the mandatory conditions of supervision that are set out in the pre-sentencing report. I'll order that those be incorporated and made a part of the final judgment. Included in those conditions is that you cooperate in the collection of DNA as authorized by statute. I'll also order that you comply with the standards, conditions, and supervision comply with the following special conditions. Those included that you submit to substance abuse testing, that you participate in the substance abuse treatment program. I'll also order that you participate in an educational services program. Because of the circumstances of the offense, court will impose the search condition. The court does find that you do not have the ability to pay a fine, so no fine will be imposed. The court is required by statute to order that you pay the mandatory special assessment. By statute, it is $100 per count for a total of $200. Anything further on the behalf of Mr. Hill before I go over with him his appeal rights, Mr. Cohen? Attorney Cohen says, no, Your Honor, thank you. Judge Ross goes on to say, anything further on behalf of the government? Miss Angie Danis. Attorney Angie Danis says, no, Your Honor. Judge Ross continues. He says, Mr. Hill, the court is required to advise you that you can appeal the conviction in this case. He has, and that's how we got these transcripts. Because when they appeal, they release transcripts. Says, if you request, the clerk of the court will file that notice of appeal for you. You can ask for leave of file the notice of appeal as a poor person in a whatever this word is. Under almost all circumstances, the notice of appeal has to be filed within 14 days of this date. Mr. Cohen, I'll ask that you go over with Mr. Hill his appeal rights. We have a form. I'll ask that you use that form, file the form. If he asks that a notice of appeal would be filed, that you perfect that notice of appeal. He's like, make it make sense and not like this BS that Tim eventually gets sent. He says, and following through with any request that he has with regard to that. Anything further from for the record on behalf of the defendant? Mr. Cohen says, no, Your Honor, thank you. The court, anything further on behalf of the government? Angie Danis says, no, Your Honor, thank you. The court, Mr. Hill, you will be remanded to the custody of the marshals to complete the sentence, and that will conclude with the record. Thank you all. So what they didn't put in here was the I don't know who the guy was. I don't know if he was a cousin or a brother or whatever. He's like, we love you. We love you. He was doing that from the audience, the guy who was sitting like 2 rows in front of me. And then Travell, his hands were shackled, so he was like, stay up. And then he walked through the door. There you go. There you go, y'all. All right. So we got some comments. I'm gonna go through them and then we gonna get on out of here. And y'all let me know what y'all thought about this, because this is similar to what will happen with the actual trial. It'd be way longer. It'd be days of that. We got through this one. I kind of thought the 32 pages we might make it through, because of the fact when we did it for that Alex V. Miller credit scam guy, his was about 30 something pages, I think, and we made it through, or a little bit more, and we made it through that in one night. So but Tim's the trial, my plan is to basically, if we can, read each day, each night, but we'll see, because some days we might not be able to get through the whole thing. So it'll probably take us about 2 weeks to get through that, I'm thinking, but we'll see. But I'm gonna play a quick commercial, because I need to take a quick little water break, y'all. Yeah, look at these comments and stuff. All right, I'll be right. All right, we are. Nope. Yeah, we're back. We're back. All right. Well, let's see what all of you are saying. Love it. Keep it going. Thank you so much, Tamika D. Carolyn Chamberlain says, "Congratulations to 1,000 subs already onward and upward." Are you saying we already have the 1,000? If we got them, that's beautiful. Let me see. It'd be great if we do, but we getting there. We got a couple hundred more to go. Yes, but onward and upwards. 1,000 subscribers, 4,000 watch hours. That's why we're gonna do some more live streams over here too, so we can get them watch hours real quick. We're working on some stuff around here. We're building a media empire over here. Okay. Monique Tucker says, "I appreciate you, Vale. Keep doing what you're doing. It's your gift. We love you." Thank you so much, Monique. Really appreciate you for your support. Kalanda Underwood says, "From now on, Travell is now a fairy to me." He was very offended by that. So yeah, you could roll with that. He was like, "What?" He's like, "You can call me a Emmer and a follower and all of these other things. Did you call me a fairy? What?" Oso says, "Yes, Kayla. No need to hold back. Let your voice ring in Travell's head. Keep him up all night." Oh yeah, I guarantee you, her impact statement was replaying in his head for weeks, if not still to this day. I guarantee you. Lorna Wilson says, "May God continue to bless and keep Michelle. She deserves some joy." Yeah, absolutely. Michelle and all of the Griggs, and those who cared about Andre truly and the loss of him. Yeah, give them all comfort, peace. Miss Dixie Blue says, "Why did Travell recant his original story confession in court?" I truly do believe that he recanted because he was trying to mitigate the damage made to his street cred. The fact that now through him doing that and being honest in the beginning with the plea agreement, now he had become a snitch. And again, even Judge Ross said, it is very clear that you're a follower and that you want to impress people and all of that. And I'm sure that once it got out that he had snitched, all of a sudden he didn't have people's approval. And he's like, well, I'm finna try to fix this so that, so he couldn't totally say, well, I didn't do it either. Now so he still went with that piece, but he's trying to omit Tim's role in it. Like it just mysteriously happened for some reason. Being Marilyn Gale says, that statement from the brother makes me so mad at the Emmers. Yeah, that was very touching. And then I do wish that trial could have been televised like some of these others, but it was a federal court trial, and so they don't televise those. But it was very heart-wrenching to be there. Andrea Edmonds says he got the nerve to be smiling like a government mule. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Every time I see that dingy photo of Tim, I always view it as rigor mortis set in a dusty looking. Yeah. We would love to see, Lorna Wilson says, we would love to see what's inside of Travell's brain because he is a mess. Weak. That's why Wyatt helps chose him. Yeah, empty-headed. Absolutely. Tim was purposeful in choosing Travell. Not only do I think that he, even without being under the influence of drugs, probably would not be the sharpest knife in the drawer. I think when you add that to, the formula, that it just made him a perfect candidate for that, which is why they were predators when it came to getting him involved. Also says the attorney act like Travell had a conscience after 6 years and just turned himself in. He got caught. He lied. He was still telling lies in the court this day. That's not cooperating. Yeah, exactly. I think at that point, the government was like, we got enough to get him convicted, so we just gonna leave this alone. But I do think that's in part why Judge Ross did add those additional 2 years to what even the state was asking. So yeah, it's thankfully it didn't, even though Tim is now trying to, cause a complete trying to get everything reversed. Thankfully, Travell turning didn't cause a mistrial of any sort. Hold on, I'm trying to pre-read the comments and give y'all commentary at the same time. That's me reading the word. You were, quote unquote, saving your life by taking someone else's. Lord, make it make sense. Now, I do get what he's saying. Now, not that I would be in that position to say, well, I'm just going to chance taking their life. I'm like, why didn't he escape, like go out of town and stuff? Because usually people just run away, when they get in deep trouble like that, they just leave town. But what he was saying was that because White Boy Chris was the person who approached him, and him and White Boy Chris didn't get along, didn't have a relationship, they had no love for each other at all, that he felt like White Boy Chris, had he rejected doing it, they were going to then come after him. And I don't know, maybe they would have, maybe they would not have, but maybe White Boy Chris may have. But the way he's presenting is kind of like White Boy Chris was a menace on the streets. Like he was known to do those things, and people knew that he did those things. And there was, and I'm not sure if this comes up in during the trial or not, or someone actually says it, but somewhere I got the information that White Boy Chris was originally the original candidate to take Andre's life. However, and this is alleged, he said, I can't do it because I know him. He knows me too well. And because remember, White Boy Chris worked at the restaurant and everything. So he's saying, allegedly, that he couldn't, although he would, and he is skilled enough to do it, I guess, he couldn't do this particular job because of the fact that he knew the person so well. So I guess if he didn't actually go, he would know, if he survived it, he would know who did it. I don't know. But that was the logic behind White Boy Chris not doing it, but instead finding someone to do it. Alice, blessed child of God, says, and I got to make sure. Okay, hold on. Doing some behind the scenes stuff too with Alice. Here we go. Okay. Alice says, please make sure that your kids stay in school and do your very best to keep them away from drugs. Ain't that the truth? As much as you can. It's so much coming for the kids. It's almost like if you let them leave out the door, you got to keep them covered and stay with them as long as you can, every step of the way. If he was a danger, oh, I didn't click on it. If he was a danger, he should have gone to the police and told everything. Well, street code is that you don't run to the police snitching. Like I get his mentality that wouldn't be an option. That doesn't, as logical as that is to us, that seems illogical to them in the street. That part I do know. That wasn't remorse. He Ro Brown says that wasn't remorse. He got that from a Ja Rule song. When you cry, we cry together. Yeah. That was some foolishness. I'm like, no one is giving you sympathy in this sentencing hearing. We're not here for you. We're not here for you. Lorna Wilson says there are many other people who has hard lives, but don't take the lives of other big dummy. Exactly. That did not that didn't make sense. Trikesha is saying, why Judge Ross kept giving these concurrent sentencing. I wasn't 100% clear on that as well, but I think he was also leaning towards, if I give you 2 consecutive life sentences, you'll never get out. And I think he felt it was unreasonable to some degree for some reason. And that part I don't know, but I will say I think it was unreasonable to do consecutive. I don't know unless it's something in the statute. I don't know. Yeah, I questioned that too, especially with Tim though, because with Tim I thought they were just gonna pile it up and he'd be 100 and something consecutive years. Like, who cares? We know you can't survive that. Who cares? That's not our concern. But yeah, I've questioned that too, Trikesha. Miss LED says, just like Terica's dried out G-string from Bottoms Up Club, burned out and ran through. Right. Yes, I am unique, says Travell is as bright as a dark corner. Oh, y'all crazy. But yeah, so that was our transcript reading. Please make sure that you have hit that like button for sure, because we're trying to get this channel to grow, and subscribe if you haven't. We got 166 people in the chat as of now. I'm not sure how many have already subscribed, but if you haven't, definitely hit that subscribe button, and we'll be back with other things. I might have to take a day to like do some it's some content I'm working on for y'all. I got to take a break of not being on camera to get it actually done for y'all. So I got some, y'all, I'm excited about what I'm about to bring y'all. So thank you to all my moderators on the front end and back ends. Alice Blessed Child of God, Precious G, Marianne, Trikesha, welcome to the Moderators Club. If you haven't, I'm sure you noticed by now. Yeah, with that, I'm gonna close y'all out with a commercial. I'll show y'all something we ain't seen in a minute. Well, y'all just seen it because I had to play it. But yeah, we will be returning with Darius Crooks stuff, because this channel is true crimes, reality news. I mean, not reality shows, but like reality stuff happening in the news, people's life stories, etc., as well as infamous figures, public figures. And this person is an infamous figure, and that is Darius Crooks. So with that, until next time, until I upload the next video, y'all take care, and I will see y'all later. Thank you so much for y'all hanging out with me tonight. All right. Peace.